everyone. Welcome to another episode of ShipTalk. I'm your host for today. My name is Chinmay Gaikwad. I'm the Director of Product Marketing at Harness, and I'm here to talk about everything related to SRE, DevOps, platform engineering, and software delivery. Today, I'm extremely excited to welcome a guest that is also passionate about this particular area. It's Aravind Putrevu. Aravind, welcome to the pod.
Thank you, Chinmay, and the Harness team. Super excited to be at ShipTalk. I've heard quite a bit about ShipTalk. I also saw one of your VP of Engineering discussions about the topic, so it was pretty interesting. So glad to be here and glad to be talking.
Yeah, welcome, Arvind. First of all, Arvind is the head of developer relationships at CodeRabbit, an AI-powered code review platform. Arvind, I know you are in this space for a long time, so I'm very interested to know how your journey started, specifically how you pivoted into tech, what was your first tech interaction, how you became passionate about tech, and then also how you pivoted into developer relationships and helping developers throughout their journey.
So, to be honest, like I think you came from India as well. You're from Indian origin, I could imagine. And then a lot of people, at least in the southern part of India, I could say that a lot of like folks who want to take up STEM as their core subjects post their like basic education. So I got into computers because my cousin used to have like an assembled computer back in the day, and then he used to do some basic programming. And then I also got to know about these programming languages like Turtle and like back before even teenage. And then I was super excited about all of these, and then always want to try out. And when I got the real chance, I was not a computer science engineer. Like destined to be a computer science engineer. I was uh, put into or tried to get into the mechanical side of things. But then somehow destiny drove me here, and I did my computer science majors in the graduation, and then gotten into an SI, which is really popular for doing banking and financial services. And then I got to work for companies which are like Fortune 10 and all like more data related. To shorten it up a bit further, I always worked in data apps and then data applications. I always worked in large scale production engineering teams, where I always had to like fix fires for some reason. Like debugging has been my like topmost responsibility for most of the things, not sustenance, not like support, but then debugging. And then post which I also like used to do several data related work with Informatica, IBM MQ, DB2, a lot of whole stack of like IBM related software. And then I realized that data is so important. And post which I grew interest into security related to data. And then McAfee happened, and I worked at McAfee for nearly 3 years. And it was a great learning experience. I mean, I'm not saying it for the sake of it, but because I learned a lot about code quality, being a actual engineer in doing a full-fledged product, working with platform engineering teams. We used to build a platform that others used to consume. And then um, and then I that's where I learned more things about endpoint detection and ranging, and more security related aspects of not just coding, but then also like data and more operating systems, how people use technology, large customers. We grew, I think, like 6 to 8 member team to like 30, 40-ish team, like one team. And then we did like crazy numbers, and it was a single product line for McAfee that grew really well. It's called McAfee like it's called Move, but it's a data center anti-malware. It has a very interesting name, but then yeah, for the sake of it, let us think that like it's data center anti-malware software. That's where I encountered Elasticsearch because I was trying to POC it, and then I could not stay alone or like idle during the weekends. I used to go to meetups and run meetups for DigitalOcean, Google developer groups, etc. in Bangalore. And then I stumbled across this opportunity, reach out to a colleague, and then a developer relations role happened. I always want to be like an educator, someone who could share what I am learning than anything else. And then I think that transpired me into this particular area, and then I never looked back because I was one of the first ones to do like the go to market and developer relations for Elastic in India, eventually SE Asia, and then I also did some work in the ANZ area, and then all across. I eventually moved to Western Europe. That's where I live now. I live in Amsterdam. Um, but then, yeah, I mean, I work with a lot of other folks in the Pacific time zone, I think Eastern time zones, etc. So in the US.
Got it. So Elastic was definitely the first company that you worked as a developer relationships person, and
Yes.
that basically gave you an insight into what a developer relationship is. So I think for our listeners who want to pivot into developer relationships, what was your expectation before you went into developer relationships, like when the first opportunity came by, and then as you have grown into this role and contributed a lot, what do you think? Has the expectation matched the reality?
Well, I think I would first answer the question. Expectation did not match the reality. Like I always thought it's more education, but then there's more to it, which I'm happy to learn. And to be honest, today, while you mentioned that I had the DevRel, but that's one piece of entire puzzle that I look at CodeRabbit. There are more things that I look at. Like I handle entire like the developer marketing and a lot of go-to-market related to developer. So I think like nurtures, campaigns, and things like that that involves quite a bit of product understanding, technical product understanding. So it's like a mashed up role of several things. Like you can think of even growth marketing or something like that. So but when I was pivoting into this area, my major inspirations, I don't even know that a lot many people would know these names, but then they were really crazy. Like there's Reto Mir from Android community, who's been like great teacher in educating people about Android. And then there are several other folks in the Android and Kotlin community back in the day. They were really instrumental in the way that uh, DevRel has been done, especially Google folks like Amrit Sanjeev, who's been also like a DevRel person for Google Cloud. There are multiple people, and then quite a few from Jugs as well, like Venkat, like great inspiration. Scott Hanselman. I mean, some of them are like VPs of DevRel, and then like at a different place in career. But then I look up to him, and I look up to them, and it was really great. I mean, like crazy. Uh, but when I'm into this DevRel, I also realized that it's for each company DevRel differs. It depends on the current, the business goals and the way that they want to structure this role and what because the it could be a very generalistic role. It doesn't need to be like while you wear many hats. Sometimes it's more like a product manager, sometimes it's more like a support person, sometimes it's just like solution engineering, sometimes it's just like technical writer, right? Where you own all the technology part of it. Very rarely you would do like maybe positioning and messaging, but I got to do that as well. So I'm super happy with what I learned in short time. But then also like it's a risky place if you want to stabilize and stay forever and do a lot of things. I think it's not a place.
Got it. Okay, that's interesting to know that you cover such a broad range of responsibilities. Having said that, since you got into developer relationships as somebody who loves teaching and mentoring, how much part of your day-to-day is actually teaching and mentoring, and who is that targeted to? Who is your audience for that?
So, if you're looking at, yeah, if you're asking about today, I think it's a bit lesser because I'm not doing a lot of talks and
Mhm.
going to conferences and meetups, etc. But then back in the day, I used to do at least like a talk or to a virtual talk on a webinar or a place like Zoom, or speaking to a community, and then definitely one talk by traveling elsewhere to meet developers at a conference, at a large meetup in a different city, or etc. So that's how I used to be. But then it has reduced as I like grew in the ranks or but the way that I look at teaching is more mentorship at this point of time. I still work with a lot of communities, developer community leads, and people who ask me more questions about how things were placed, like questions around like how do I pivot into this? How do I continue to grow in this area? Like is Kubernetes the thing, right? To continue work on. So more things like that. Internally as well, there is a team that I work with, and then there's a lot of coaching, there's a lot of mentorship, guiding people through the task. So that's what keeps me active and driving impact.
Got it. That makes sense. You mentioned Kubernetes in there, and I think we met at one of the KubeCons previously. So I'm interested to know on how KubeCon, which is one of the biggest conferences for Kubernetes developers, has changed over the past years, and especially in the recent years with the advent of Gen AI.
Oh yeah, I think there's a lot that we can talk. Kubernetes is like the Linux of this entire ecosystem, right? I don't know how many know or understand this at this point. A lot of these inference workloads, like say running, connecting to a GPU, and then making sure that your LLM is deployed, and then you kind of like manage the to deliver the tokens on an API, is still done through a scalable layer, orchestration layer like Kubernetes. Kubernetes is still the core piece of entire thing, and from an infrastructure point of view, it's the most important piece. And then over the years, I see like, yeah, the Kubernetes community and everyone has taken a look at it. Linux Foundation itself acknowledges the entire fanfare around the entire Gen AI space. And I believe that the community still has a lot of work to do, like in the way that how the entire, because the ecosystem is earlier like was very much into solving for scale, debugging issues, and like solving for observability, running more workloads that are not there yet. Like say maybe how do we build for telcos? How do we build for different sort of like oil and energy and gas? So that sort of initiatives. But I think again, there's more new energy into how Kubernetes ecosystem is placed with the new Gen AI thing. So I believe there's more work to be done, but then I think I also see like in the last couple of keynotes that it has changed to a certain extent, and then people are already opining into all of this. Yeah.
Got it. And then specifically in terms of developing applications on Kubernetes or non-Kubernetes layers, um, we have seen a lot of things change over the last couple of years, especially since ChatGPT was introduced. How has your approach to application development or talking to developers about application development changed over the last few years as compared to the years prior to that?
We could um, still there are still folks who would are like wary of like how and where all of this is going, like from a generative AI perspective. From someone who has come up from like worked in like very old school, like on-prem no cloud area, then like private cloud, public cloud, and then some sort of like cloud, like fully cloud PLG side of things, and then eventually now with like a Gen AI side. I could definitely say that there are still vary, but I also noticed that a large part of like folks who are building apps today are like or adopting Gen AI is enterprises. A lot many people realize the productivity gains, and then the way that they also build this entire workflow is like probably starting with a simple GPT POC, like on OpenAI, or like using a simple RAG by working with this design studio, or like someone who's been a consultant and working with these apps. But then very very untraditional. If you look at like predominantly people have built a ML center of excellence, have worked building like large data centric platforms, unifying data, building data observability, and a lot of those initiatives. I think while that's continuing, the space here in the Gen AI is moving really fast. Developers have been using and learning from market pretty quickly, and the market also is moving really fast. So what's a popular library last week might not be a popular library this week. So everyone understands this. They understand, digest, and move on. What might be a problem today might not be a problem for August, or like on the coming months, right? So I think it's dynamically changing, and then rapidly changing, and then also like developers are adopting all these techniques through by learning through like their either original source, like the social media handles of brands or something, or probably attached to a specific community, yeah, on the social media or like anywhere else. So that's how I see.
Got it. And then just to double click on that, From a developer advocate slash developer marketing perspective, has how has your approach changed from, let's say, when you were at Elastic versus where you are now at CodeRabbit?
Are you asking more about like say from how developers are learning this entire area,
Yeah,
or like
how
how we.
developers are learning this entire area and how the current developer advocates are helping developers accelerate their learnings and get to like good quality code, whatever that quality is. Um, yeah,
Yeah. So I think there's one thing that I could definitely mention. Developers or enterprises have definitely realized that AI coding has been really productive. So you are be saying, or like you don't need to take a hop to go search on Google, find a Stack Overflow question, go get the snippet, try it out, and then go back. So it's all happening in your IDE or your central CI/CD pipeline or something. It's pretty simple and natural, but at the same point of time, they're also wary about, like, enterprises at least are wary about like shipping slop. So so um the way that a lot of like teams were trying to look at, like say the evangelists or even companies, they're trying to educate folks through meaningful engineering articles, or how we built it, why we built it, what is the problem. That's been really going more. Say back in the day, probably there's a meetup, like more in-person centric development, or like probably a large workshop or a webinar, right? These are like the way that you get to know about a product and all. Now it's probably a 3-minute video, which most of it can be explained in first 30 seconds. The attention span is less, but also the way that people are being taught is through either like the developer relations teams, communities, or like the brands, like the companies itself is very different. And video continues to be a very big area for everyone. Podcast continues to be like a great place to learn new things, interact with new things, and understand like people whom even don't have any connection about. So so I think the mode or the method has been like has changed a lot, while the core source remains, like, where you need to give authentic content, share your opinion, share how you built this solution, why is it needed, and then also tell like known issues, and then provide support through like community forums like Discord, or like you have a discourse publicly that you would leverage. People would leverage everything. Gone are the day where there's long pass of doing and planning for an event, planning for a webinar, asking people to come join and Zoom. Like if you have something, share it already. So it's pretty quick.
pretty instant. Okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense. And then we talked about a lot about developers using Gen AI tools to write code. Vibe coding has been the talk of the town recently. What's your take on vibe coding? Where do you see it? Do you see it being adopted a lot in production environments, or do you think there is a lot of skepticism around it as well?
So first of all, there is a lot of skepticism. I would accept, and then a lot of senior developers would not like the term vibe coding. But the way that it has been um positioned, I would not say messaged as well, but then positioned is a bit wrong. Why I would say is, if you look at the entire thing, the way that I think Andre or someone did it in a tweet, and then it went viral because everyone was vibe coding, where you press tab, 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 and then press click, 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 and then there you go. The solution or like the feature is fully built with an AI coding assistant. Well, it's great, but then the work doesn't end. Software engineering doesn't end with that, right? Like, forget about docs or unit tests that you need to write for the code that is generated. You basically want to make sure that code runs, and then if you are even a small shop, you want to test in different browsers. If and it explodes, right? You need to ship it to a common place and a lot of that. So vibe coding as a term is not like maybe very much applicable to like the way that the entire area. It's a very small piece of place where probably non-tech users would quickly iterate on a prototype without waiting for a real engineer to come and tell. Like say you could use tools like Lovable or VNot to just do a quick iteration on whatever is there on the site, but still you need something more. to do it. So I would not even say that there are like a lot of like wrong way of understanding the term called vibe coding. But then in general, there is a bit of net positive around it. And then I think there's more that we all could leverage more. And then at least it's been like we are inviting more developer population into this. We're making more people developers by using the term vibe coding. People would
Yeah,
understand more.
yeah, totally. And then you said that like a lot of so a lot of people come in, become developers, write code, and then the first step is essentially code reviews. And you have been working in code reviews for a long time now. CodeRabbit works in code reviews. How has code reviews changed from a traditional pre-vibe coding era to a current vibe coding era, or even with Gen AI tools?
There is a saying in the security area, right? Wherein in there's something called SIEM, right? Security in Information and Event Management System. Like SIEM is a very popular solution where you have all the security events come in and then you query to look at signals and then see if there is any security incidents or things like that. And a SecOps analyst usually puts in a query, goes out for a coffee, comes back, and probably the result is ready. So that's how like eventually security ecosystem used to look at seams. And after a while, like when cloud and all these new age query engines have come in, open source like Elasticsearch, Presto, and a lot of these, right? And it has accelerated quite a bit. And then you don't need to like go back to get a coffee. You the results are available instantly. Apply the same analogy to the current area, right? Code review has been, um, I could say it's a bottleneck, and it's like probably cumbersome. And then in some cases it could involve some sort of like animosity between the developers, because developers are naturally introverted and then they might not talk as much as anyone else, like let alone someone like me, right? Maybe I'm talking more, but then you're forcing developers through the process called code review to talk more and collaborate and then exchange ideas, and this is a place for friction. And then I think what AI has done, apart from the real, like, the code quality, okay, we automate all these linters, we do a lot of that. Apart from that, it is not just accelerated the process of giving the review very quickly after the change has been made, but also brought in a neutral perspective into this entire code review process. No tool, I can definitely say, because as a developer I have used so many tools in this specific area. No tool has solved this issue so easily than generative AI plus tools like CodeRabbit. I think like no tool has solved, because like I've used a lot of code quality tools and code security tools, uh, and they used to do half and half, like because they solve a very specific puzzle in this entire area, and then you need to bring like say a dast tool for doing like a SaaS tool, like you need to bring into all of these, and then it also creates huge amount of tech debt that we kind of like put it away for some other sprint or something like that. So I would say that with the advent of AI and then with tools like CodeRabbit, you're not accelerating only on the time, you're accelerating on producing less bugs. You're accelerating also on making sure the teams are productive and they share useful discussions, and they're focused on the core area. They're not talking about like nitpicks, style issues that your team or that's differently mandated and enforced. It's much better, and then you can focus on whether the concurrency system is perfectly designed for 1,000 user load, right? So things like that. So you can focus on the core business and the need than all these styles and nitpicks and all. That being said, I think CodeRabbit also does these find these bugs and then all of these refactor issues. So it's added value in general.
Got it. That's very interesting because um, trust is a big factor whenever I've talked to like developers and companies. Trust in Gen AI tools is a big factor in their decision making. So with reviews, how much trust can developers actually put in AI powered reviews? And is human in the loop still a mandatory thing, or is it an optional thing?
I at CodeRabbit we continue to say that we augment the process. We don't like remove the human in the loop first of all, and we always want we don't push a lot. Many people ask us like if CodeRabbit approves, just push the PR, just merge it, right? Make it autonomous. So we don't have that option in the PR process. It's not just like we are wary of doing that because a lot many people continue to say that CodeRabbit is really great and this has been a cruel tool, but then we always want uh, a human in the loop and to make sure that not just the AI is doing its job, but then have you felt satisfied about this entire PR? So we bring down the we bring down the entire PR review process by what, like not even 50%, 70%, or even more in many teams, right? And the only thing that the user needs to do is like whether is this feedback really useful, and then should I go and review something else? Should I go and look at more things? So yeah, that being said, I also want to come back and say that there exist problems with AI wherein sometimes it hallucinates and sometimes the data is not like relevant, and then the context built up is not appropriate, and then maybe the user hasn't provided the certain type of things, and then due to the model or several other reasons it might not have given great suggestions. But we are working on it. I would want to go ahead and say one more thing. Like CodeRabbit isn't like any other wrapper. We don't just send a git diff to LLM and then you get feedback, right? There's a lot of like engineering, especially I could say context engineering in place, that we build context like 60% of the time just goes into this context build up phase. So I think we do this verification and vetting process post the review happens. When before we post it, there's a verification agent that helps you to do all of this. And despite that, sometimes maybe there's like a misses, hits and misses in that area. So we're continuously trying to improve evals, work with the model providers to do all of this. So it's a whole process, uh, and it helps eliminates a lot of things in the area, especially when you are generating using AI. I think your
Mhm.
reviews better be faster.
Yeah, definitely. Developers are not that patient, so they definitely need their reviews to be faster. You touched a bit on context engineering there. And so, just taking a step back, there was prompt engineering where people said the output of the LLM would depend on how great quality of your prompt is. Now there is context engineering. By the time this pod goes out, there might be some another term that might come out. But let's stick to context engineering. Can you dive a little bit deep into context engineering? Just explain what it is and how it differs from prompt engineering.
Especially for coding, AI coding tools, it's very context is everything, and context is so important uh, than than like anything else. If you're talking about generic AI applications, even there context is so important. And what is this context? How do you build this context aware applications? So if you look at like any model like open source, off the shelf anything, or like you're looking at like proprietary large language models like GPT, Claude, etc. They have a specified set of like input tokens and output tokens size, right? 128K. GPT 4.1 has 1 million. Gemini 2.5 has 1 million. So like context windows, they have it's just like display size. Back in the day when I was doing Android development, you have like certain amount of like size of the phone, and then you can only load that amount of data into that area. And if you scroll up, the data will load, the new data will be fetched. So that's, we prepare the data, but we don't send the data to client, or like we don't show it up. So I think we would have all seen this back in the day, and then you manage the display size properly. So that's what is happening here. You make sure that whatever you could fit into that context, relevant information that is needed for the LLM to make a useful decision, if it's a decision or probably a generation, you would probably fit everything into that window and then let the LLM do the task. And then this entire process also needs to be evaluated as well. Like you should have evals for whether it's taking the right decisions. If I fit this much, how is it performing? What sort of data is getting fitted? Is it probably processing? So there's a lot of engineering in place. And then the way that this entire area of like managing the context between multiple calls, multiple agents, multiple tasks makes up this context engineering thing. um, I would still say this is not really new. It's been there for 1 year or 1.5 year, right from the time. I think those people who have realized this thing and built good applications, and made context as a center area to entire thing, really won a lot of like customer accolades, and gotten a lot of a prize. So context is everything. It's not just because somebody has made a post, like I think again Andrea has made a post or something, but really context plays a major role. It could as simple as, like, say, especially in the AI code, a simple search, find the functions and fit it into your context with a proper prompt will get you better results than you do a what do you call, make your entire code base into a specific embeddable, into an embeddable rag, and then process it over. So that has a different way to look at it. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Just going beyond coding and code reviews, there is so much to the SDLC, right from building to deploying to managing incidents to observability. Um, what area are you most excited about to see an innovation with Gen AI tools, especially with regards to all of these stages of SDLC?
I think, especially the way that in the SDLC area, one of the boring parts for me as a developer is to do estimations, tasking, like planning, right? And then making sure that, I mean, this is like the program management part of like working with the software engineering. And then post program management, the code quality, like what code review, I mean, CodeRabbit and tools like them do, like that area is a bit boring. And then after that, I think one of the important points, and then where everyone would want to, like, back in the cloud native era, like want to solve for, is observability, right? I think debugging issues, putting fixes and all. I see a lot of them are already doing it. I don't know Harness does it or not today, but then when there is an issue, especially with respect to projects like APM, wherein you would be able to find issues and send fixes or evaluate fixes right in the context of incident or issue, or like prepare an incident report, run a run book automatically, create scripts and run that run book to find the RCA for an issue. So I think all of these are interesting angles just after your deployment. And eventually I think we could also reach into an area where your not even observability, I think the way that you want to do blue green deployments, you want to manage users, I think even that loop will be solved. And then I'm looking forward for more of that as well, like the data gathering, data science, and a lot of that sort of area, like post release and post like launching the product. I think even that area is to be very exciting. But then yeah, I think planning is one big area, because developers continues to I mean, we can't be like as explanatory as possible, right? We will, but then there could be more. LLMs need more information, and it will do better if we do better planning. Yeah.
Right. And then, so as with most AI systems, it heavily depends on the data, the quality of the data. With planning, there is like so much scope to have good data as well as bad data. For example, if like I create a Jira ticket and I don't put in a lot of description in it, the AI won't be able to perform that well, right? So, are there any tools or tips that you have seen work in the field around how planning tools can become more explanatory and AI can actually use that data to actually help with code generation?
Oh yeah, yeah. Very interesting question, and I don't know why you asked, because I really love this area at this point, and then I myself are like researching, and then looking at a lot of tools and then things. So let us break this into two area. Like one is where the AI coding arena, or like the ecosystem is going. That involves why it involves planning and why it's so important, that we can talk a bit in a minute. But then when you talk about planning tools, yes, I think there are tools like Taskmaster. There are like very autonomous tools like Tracer AI. Cloud Code itself has a plan mode. When given a code base, a large code base, it can able to like figure out entire thing and then bring up like a common codebase.md or like cloud.md file that understands that entire context of how this particular monorepo or like microservices repo has been built up. So these tools itself are trying to do the summarization and then trying to put things together. But a little heads up into this plan needs a human intervention at this point of time. It's not fully autonomous. Say for example, if I want to build, hey, I think build me an Airbnb clone, and then Airbnb probably have like at least like 5 to 6 microservices on their homepage, and then each powering a cart service, a list service for all the things, a search service, things like that. And then to be able to for a sub agent or like a coding agent to build, you need to be able to clearly tell what is what, right? So I think you still need a bit of human intervention. You still need to tell what's your common stack. So the DevTool stack, or like say, I want to use this database, I want to use this particular front end stack, I want to use TypeScript as my backend language and use this for unit testing. So I need to be having all of this thing in place. I mean, maybe there's a framework, maybe there is like a common, you know, language or a standard to build up these things would come up probably. So we'll have to wait and watch on that area. But otherwise, planning as an area is very interesting. And then I think, like I said, planning tools are the need of hour, and a lot of developers are already using it. Uh, I think IDEs like Cursor themselves are coming with something, but then definitely check out Cloud Code's plan mode, Tracer AI planning engine, and then you could also take a look at the other Taskmaster is another to-do engine, which is like more CLI or something. Uh, I want to like also come and talk about like say the entire AI coding area, like as you could see where say if you have a like large epic in scrum terms, and then you want to break that epic into like stories, and then you would want to break them further into tasks and all of that. If you have good thought into this area like a senior developer or a product owner or someone like that, and have come from a technical position eventually, like grew up into this thing, and I think that's good enough for you to run with all these agents. And then you can create a Kanban board, and then those Kanban board can be assigned to multiple sub agents, and then those sub agents will eventually complete the tasks and push it into like in progress and like done stage, where you move tasks seamlessly, and then it raises PRs, gets reviewed by tools like CodeRabbit. So you have like a plan engine, you have a coding area, and then you also have like a review area, and then you have like a deployment area set by targets for you. So it's like a command center, like where you have for your SecOps or security area, like you have a command center, SDLC command center, where you planning gets done by a different agent or a tool, and then you have all these tasks, and then you have this entire deployment. So I believe that's where everything is going on.
That would be very fascinating to see in real life. And I think, yeah, I I
We're
would be
getting
really
there.
curious. Yeah, we're getting there. Okay, so while we are on the point of recommendations, you mentioned a few recommendations on the things that you found very interesting, Cloud Code's planning mode, for example. What about the other parts of SDLC? Specifically, like observability, I know is very close to your heart. So, any exciting technology, any exciting startups, or even like any companies that are doing AI the right way
I mean, are you asking more in the AI coding area?
in the observability or like the rest of the SDLC, like software delivery and other stuff?
Yeah, I think I would say that I haven't seen a lot of like serious AI percolate like mainstream into observability yet, because I still see like a lot many people doing dashboarding and some AI assistants here and there. But there is a chance for a lot of like these SRE agents and then observability agents to pick up. Maybe because of the context or the way that it, or probably people were using like the type of models. I don't know. I haven't seen something like really crazy in that area. However, I because of the nature, like I keep seeing at the uh, different tools, both by Harness and several other players in the ecosystem. I think it shows really good success in the early stage. But I also feel that there are few startups which try to execute really well on the SRE area, but it did not take up adoption because maybe people are wary about giving their keys to production
Yeah.
environments. So that's still there. Yeah. So I haven't seen as such, like, there's one crazy tool as in the observability space as such that takes away, because it's a very complex system, and then that requires more and more data points to be unified and to make like a valuable decision. But then I think small parts can be, I saw like one of the observability player um, has a start, like, they raise fixes for these APM tools. I don't know if it is Datadog or Sentry or someone, where they have raises these fixes for the AI, using the AI for the APM issues. Like, say if there is like a wrong error code and then it's coming over and over, then you analyze and RCA and then plan it up and then code a PR, give it away, so the user tries to merge it, and then the loop becomes more clearer, right? So that's the thing.
Got it. Okay, makes sense. A lot of innovation on the left of the SDLC. I guess on the right has to catch up a bit sooner or later. One thing that I wanted to get your take on is, if I am an engineering leader and with all of these tools about like planning, code generation, code reviews that you mentioned, what are some of the best practices you would recommend engineering leaders to adopt? And it can be like something that you have seen work in customer environments, or it can also be like, hey, this like use one tool across the board. Anything that you would like to share?
Uh, I mean, there are different strategies and organizations are following. From my experience on what I'm seeing, people use a whole lot of tools. It's like, for the lack of better example, I think like it's like the taste of what the team want. It's like when I go into a company and then I always ask like, oh, do you want a Mac or a Windows? Oh yeah, I would choose a Mac, but it's depends, right? Like on the developer. So similarly, I think at this point of time, most of these tools are at disposal and at the developer's disposal or the team's disposal, and like team or the person would choose their stack accordingly. And then the engineering leadership is also like quite open to let people pick their own, especially AI code generation assistant. And then unless it is super expensive or like not available for them, I also see some teams giving away these the architects or staff or senior engineers, like staff level plus engineers, tools like Claude Code, which probably costs like $30 to $40 in a single run, right? Could cost that. But then for quick POCs and then for quick showcasing of work, I think there were quite a few tools like these, and then people were giving these options. So there's not one tool. I would also personally recommend in general to use a multitude of tools. It's better for you to find, it's not like the same sauce that's being sold in different areas, right? It's also like unique in its own way when you combine multiple agents, and where each comes with a different, probably different system prompt. I hope so, like, and then you also have maybe the code generation, not just because um, uh, the company that I work for is doing code reviews, but then code generation is more commodity in general, like wherein you have a lot of code generation tools. You could also use open source models like DeepSeek, not the R1, but then the DeepSeek V3 is really, really amazing, right? You have Qwen 72B, which is very popular. Qwen Coder is really popular. There's like a lot of these coding tools, models that you could use off the shelf and then just use it. But then when it comes to other tasks, like probably refactoring, like probably QA testing, and then like screen testing, like live screen testing with tools like Playwright, or like code reviews and deployments, observability, then I think you need a stack. You definitely need to choose something like even code based context built up. Sometimes repo prompt tools like repo prompt would also help. So your team needs an arsenal of these, and these are like different drill bits in a power tools system. So you also need to know how people would use it. Best practices include, like, definitely choose an AI coding tool, give an option to build like, an agentic coding tool that works on probably on a central ecosystem. And then, yeah, I think that would definitely help.
Got it. Makes sense. And then on the same lines, you recently wrote about the developer tool stack with AI. Can you expand a bit on that?
Oh yeah, I think most teams actually have one or the other tools. Like I believe, like, continuing on what I said last, I think there is like multiple layers in this entire dev tool stack. Like, say, where you want to generate code, you can use like the IDE or like the cloud, or like the devins of the world, like the background agents and devils of the world, to generate. Like GitHub also has a coding agent. Jules is one another. Like everyone has a CLI event, right? You have these code generation tools, and then you also need something like, your what do you call, your essential tool, like when you want to definitely review that code that is coming in. I'm talking about a team. I'm not just talking about an individual developer. Even for individual developer to accelerate really fast, you would definitely want a reviewer, because you're shipping like 13,000 lines PR, right? You're not shipping like smallish PRs. So you need definitely this stack of, like, say, a tab completion or an AI coding assistant tool, and then probably you would need a front end tool, like, app generation for prototyping and all. So that's what I wrote about. I generally wrote about like the entire arena of, like, what is your dev stack could look like, what are optional that you could probably look aside, but what is essential and what is like foundational to your entire dev tool stack, and how it is evolving. And then if you see more, please feel free to add them or like share more about it. I think that would be amazing to know.
Yeah, definitely. We'll add them in the show notes. So okay, so now you have written extensively about DevTools stack. On a more personal note, I'm kind of curious to know about, have you done AI project for your own personal thing apart from work? If yes, what was it, and what was the outcome of it?
Yeah, I did more than a couple of apps. I recently built between the conversation that we had, and I recently built a Zendesk guide product. I got curious about how to build a support center, and it seems like with a nice CMS plus a nice front end, you could do a lot. And I gave Claude Code this task of, like, building a support center, plan it, build it, and they did a great job of replicating like help.openai.com. I have this project on my GitHub, like it's called Help Center. It's decent. I just need some more work. Maybe I could do that, but that's pretty exciting, that what these LLMs could build. But another important project that I am working for a long time, more than 2-3 months, but I really want to launch it like a SaaS app, is Git for vibe coders. A lot of people I see that struggle with storing code at this point of time, and they can't manage Git. I think for a lot of developers, they struggle to do merge versus rebase, or like finding how do I solve merge conflicts, how do I probably like stash and then probably pick up another branch and then again pop the stash and then do all of that. So imagine, for a lot of non-tech users, they still want to store the code, and they need to have a versioning system that's not so complicated. So just curious to build something, and then some of this is like on different repos on my GitHub, so I could share that.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a very interesting project. I can definitely see somebody picking that up and actually taking to production. So let's see how that goes. One last thing from me. Uh, since there has been an explosion of AI tools, there has also been an explosion of like where to find information about these AI tools, how to learn them. What are your go-to sources for learning about the latest stuff, or just tutorials, or just what the community is talking about? Do you have like a few handful of resources that you could share with our viewers?
So to be honest, I think I spent quite a bit of time on X or Twitter. and consume a lot of information through my custom lists that I make up lists with a lot of leads, AI thought leaders, people who share more information about AI in general. There isn't a one source that I should say that gives you more information, but then I try to capture a lot of these things through AI. I kind of like run a small AI agent. This is another project that I never talk about. This I have a dev shots and newsletter where I the AI automatically brings up a lot of useful information to me every week, and then I make a catch up called dev catch up every week. One is going live today in few hours. So similarly, I follow like the Discard Sean Wang's Latent Space Discord newsletter, pretty amazing. Latent Space pod itself is really great. Everyone should take a look at it. And then there are few social handles like the Rundown AI just gives you all the B2C AI information. And there's too much AI going at this point of time
Yeah.
for a normal people outside to even look at. But then I think especially for a developer and who's interested in the AI coding area, there is nothing better resources than these community centers. Like I said, the newsletter, then the brand themselves, they share a lot of interesting blogs and information, and then yeah, I think those are like the cool things.
Got it. And we'll also add those in the show notes as well. So definitely you won't miss out on that. I think this was very an incredible conversation about everything in the SDLC. So Aravind, really appreciate the time you took to talk to us today. Any last parting words that you wanted to share?
No, I definitely want every developer to give AI coding a shot. Like I think if you are skeptical, use it use it like something that a new toy or a new tool. You're learning a new library or like new tool. I would also want to say that the entire internet is going through new way to do internet itself, like new way to do web, and then there's a lot of opportunity for each one of us to contribute to and also build in this future. So don't be shy. Definitely get part in it and probably build something exciting as well. Who knows? Yeah, you could be building the next app dynamics.
Awesome. This was great, Aravind. So thanks a lot again, and thanks all for listening.
Thank you.